some things happen in our life that made me reevaluate happiness in general. And I'm a lot more okay with spending small amounts of money on like a daily basis that will make me happy, like buying better food that's more nutritious, or like if I just really want a coffee on my way home, I'm not going to feel so bad about buying it. Like basic stuff like that. I'm enjoying the ride instead of trying to focus on the end goal.
Welcome, millionaires and future millionaires. You're listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast, a show where you'll hear the stories and interviews of everyday millionaires. We'll unveil their decisions, their strategies, and their portfolio allocation. Now to your host, Jace Mattinson.
Welcome back to another episode of the Millionaires Unveiled podcast. This is episode number 357. Happy Mother's Day to all you mothers out there and future mothers. Hope you all had a great day celebrating as we did. If you'd like to be on the show, send us an email, millionairesunveiled@gmail.com. Always looking for new great guests and new millionaire interviewees. Also had several reach out on the meetup. I think we are going to close it in terms of interest. We've had quite a few people reach out, and I don't want to have too many. So I appreciate those that have reached out already. I'll make sure that I get back to all of you. I know that I have not returned a few emails, texts, etc. Don't have a lot today. Today's guest is Sarah. She's a net worth of $1.1 million and is a teacher. In fact, she's been teaching her whole career, and we talk a little bit about her teaching career as well as what it was like to grow up in a wealthy neighborhood, but in a blue-collar household, as she puts it. We also have a discussion about kind of having separate household finances in some respects. And so a lot of different topics that we touched on. She also had inherited a recent sum of cash that really kind of pushed over the $1 million mark, but was well on her way there already. So going to be a great episode, touch on a lot of topics that we have not gotten into, and really share the unique story of Sarah. So without any further ado, let's get to the episode with Sarah.
Sarah, do you want to just give us about your background and what you're up to now?
Sure. Yep. I started out growing up. I grew up in kind of a wealthy area, and chose to go to a school that like a lot of my classmates looked down upon, I guess, in a way, when I went to college. But it made the most sense for me because it was a good value. And while I was at school, I met my wonderful husband. And after school, started teaching. I've been teaching ever since. So this is my 12th year teaching. And in that time, a whole bunch of life happened. And now we own a home, have 2 kids, dog, and a brand new kitty cat who's like 2 months old. Yeah, here we are.
Awesome. And we're going to get into all the details of all this fun stuff. But before we do, what's your net worth today?
I was just looking at it today in preparation, and we're sitting at 1.11. Actually, I'm going to round up slightly. 1.12.
Nice. So a newly minted millionaire.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And
congrats.
It's funny because like a while ago, I started, I'm kind of like, we're both numbers people. We both went to school for physics, and that's how we met in our thermodynamics class. We were really, feeling the heat, and I had to, but so.
Feeling the heat, talking about them protons or what?
Yeah. Those electrons really just like making that magnetic field, and I don't know, I can get more complicated about it, but I'm not going to. Yeah, I could totally nerd out on that. I tend to be more of like the numbers person. I'm more mathy. He chose physics because he was like, I'll always have a job in it. I chose physics because I was like graduating high school. I was like, what was I most interested in? And that was it. So he very much went the sales route, and I very much am like the numbers person. He's like the person that makes friends in our family. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have any friends. So anyway, this was a little bit of a tangent to say that I keep track of like our budget and our net worth and do our taxes and all that stuff. He does like the daily bills, but I was looking at our net worth today in preparation. And I was kind of surprised at the number. And I had started tracking it maybe like a year and a half ago or so. I started taking accounting classes because it's also something I was interested in. I was like, oh, I'll do a little balance sheet for our household just so I can feel it out and make sure I'm doing everything properly. And when I did that, I was like, Dan, we're doing pretty good. We're at like 750 right now. And it's just kept going up since then. And I kind of am like, how did we get here? But yeah, here we are.
Nice. That's awesome. So when did you, before we get into the allocation, when did you do that for the first time and realized you were at 750?
Let's see. Yeah, I think it was about a year and a half ago. So, maybe it must have been in 2020, because in 2020, I was starting to think about, dang it. It was either 2019 or 2021. It definitely wasn't 2020 because, I had decided to take these accounting courses because I was kind of getting frustrated with teaching, and I was looking at, well, what other interests do I have? What else could I be really like successful at and feel like I'm doing something positive? And I thought accounting or some sort of like financial planning would be good. Because I do believe I'm a teacher at heart. Like I want to help people. I want to teach people. I want people to feel powerful through knowledge. And I took those accounting classes to like figure out if I could switch. And then we had our second child, and I had applied and gotten into UConn's Masters of Science in Accounting, which was like pretty exciting. And I sat down for my first night of homework, and my husband walked in after dealing with the kids. And I think it was like 7 p.m. And he was like, can you please not do this? And he meant like the whole thing. Like, can you just quit? And I was like, yeah. I mean, what else are you going to do as a mom, right?
Oh my goodness.
I'm like, yeah, I only live one life, but there's so many things that I'm interested in. There's so many things I want to do. And at the end of the day, you do only live one life. And what's more important than being a mom and being there for your family? And it's just the timing wasn't right. It still isn't right. And there are other things aside from accounting that I really want to do. Like I had really, when my first daughter was a year, I was like, we could totally start a cidery. Like I really wanted to start a cidery because we make cider at home. And I have a little bit of a entrepreneur like spark that I want to pursue entrepreneurship. And I saw it as a great investment, like a great place to kickstart ourselves, like start the cidery with an exit plan, like not to do it forever, but just start it while I was home, because I was home for a year and a half with my older child. And I was trying to figure out like, what could I do to stay home with her so I wouldn't have to go back to teaching? And I thought, if I started a cidery, got it rolling, and then sold it for a decent chunk, that could at least support me for a few years. And I wanted to pursue that because I had a couple of good connections that would really make that work. And again, it was like too high of a risk at the time. So for our family, it made the most sense for me to put that on hold. Like I could always do that in a decade if I wanted to, or when I'm 60. It doesn't matter when I do that, but when my daughter's a year and a half, we kind of need the stability. So again, put that on hold. We're not going to do that right now. There's always time to do things like that later. So yeah.
That's awesome. I want to get into some of these details because this is pretty interesting and unique. But before we do, $1 million, little over 1.12. How is that broken up?
Yes. Okay. I did separate it between my husband and mine. I did not combine them. So I'll try and combine them pretty quickly. Right now we have a decent chunk of cash because of an inheritance that I just received like last week. So total cash is Yeah, 310,000. Our cars are like 19,000. Our home is 480,000. My husband has a Roth 401k of about 210,000. Our personal IRAs are about 40,000. My husband has a personal brokerage account of 160,000. And then I have a pension with a cash value of about 75,000. Yeah. And I have a 457 with about 4,500 in it. And our mortgage remaining on our property is 187, which we are choosing not to pay off because we have like a under 3% interest rate on it.
So real quick, just got a big inheritance and deciding not to pay the mortgage off or down.
Yep.
What do you do with that kind of cash influx from the inheritance at this point?
That's something my husband and I have talked a lot about. He first got a decent chunk of change shortly after, 2021 was when that cash came through. And his first thing was like, I could pay off our house right now. And that would have taken all of the inheritance, and there would be a little bit left on our mortgage. So it wouldn't quite have been able to pay off the house. And I said, well, hang on, let's slow down a little bit. I think when it comes to the home mortgage, Dan and I are both fairly risk averse. I would say he's more risk averse than I am. And when it comes to the idea of paying off our house and owning it outright, it is really appealing. However, the reward of putting your money elsewhere is just a no-brainer. So I think it's a matter more of thinking about it logically, trusting the math, and saying, you know what? Both of these things are good decisions. It's a good decision to pay off the house. It's a good decision to put the money into treasuries or a high yield savings account that's also very secure and get a better reward for it. Again, the appeal of paying off the house, I totally get that works for a lot of people. And the feeling of security, I just don't think it's worth it.
I'm guessing you all just haven't got the equilibrium on that one just yet.
Oh, no. We both agree on it. We both agree to not pay it off.
He's trying to make a physics joke.
Oh,
He's trying to really, he's digging in and he went for it.
What? I'm a chemistry nerd at heart in a way. I took a lot of chemistry classes long before I realized that my real heart is actually in business. But I did, and I really enjoyed chemistry. So physics is a little out there for me, but like I get it. But like you bridge all that together, and I get it. So you're not going to pay the house off because you got I get it. That's awesome.
I respect and I like your joke, and thank you for doing it.
He even pushed me aside. He's like, hold on. I got this one.
I got one. I'm going to say it. It's good.
Well, that's great. Did you know that you were receiving an inheritance?
Oh my gosh. So, I mean, I've known for about a year. I certainly didn't know throughout my life. No. I grew up in a wealthy area in a very blue collar family that we always kind of struggled. And I've heard other guests talk about this before, where they're surrounded by a lot of wealth, but their family is not necessarily wealthy. And then I ended up teaching in a town that was just south of the one that I grew up in that's also very wealthy. And I had to remind my students sometimes, people want to look a certain way, they want to be part of the crowd. So you never know. You never know who's not, doing well, or who has to compete to be able to get the what are they called? AirPods or whatever it is, the current thing that you want. So I did not know if I was receiving an inheritance, and it wasn't a factor in any of the things that I did throughout my life. And I always just was kind of careful and frugal, and it was my uncle that passed, and I'm talking about my inheritance personally. And it was really unexpected. And Dan's mom as well. Dan's mom had passed the first week of shutdown in March of 2020. That was also really unexpected. So we talked recently. I only just got this 175 last week that I deposited. And it was so strange to me because I knew it was coming for about a year. And then my little brother had brought the checks from the executor, who was another uncle of mine. And he handed them to me and I opened them up. And, I see the amounts and I just my heart dropped and I just was really sad about it. And I was so surprised at that feeling because I know that my uncle who had passed, he would have been so happy for me to get this. I know that he would have been excited. And if he had seen my reaction, he'd be like, "Oh, come on." And I talked to my husband about it and he was like, "Yeah, I totally get it. That's exactly what I felt. You feel confused and kind of guilty and you get imposter syndrome kind of. And it's there's this pressure to do the very best thing with this money that people left for you." And he had gone through all of that and processed it way before I did. So I was kind of in the middle of processing some of this stuff. I'm like, yeah, everything you're saying just totally makes sense. I think something that helped after receiving the inheritance so far was I had a list of things that I wanted to do. I really wanted to contribute to our kids' 529 plans. I really wanted to contribute to my Roth IRA, which I can't do anymore. Dang it. Not this year anyway, because our income is too high. So I'm trying to talk to an accountant about that. Yeah, those things. There were just a couple of things that I wanted to check off that made me feel better about receiving the inheritance in the first place.
Wow. So really receiving that inheritance evoked a lot of emotion that you hadn't anticipated, and then a lot of responsibility to do, the next best thing with it and, make them proud, make it feel like it was worth it for them to have given that to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you came from a wealthy area. You say that your personal family was maybe not as wealthy as those around you. What steered you toward the direction of teaching, given that teaching is historically not as well paid as some other professions?
That's a really good question. I don't know. We kind of came from a family of teachers. My grandfather was a teacher on my dad's side, and my dad, growing up, he was always my dad always said not to be a teacher, but I gotta say, it's pretty secure. And I never really felt like it was too much of a choice. Not to say that I was pressured into it at all in any way. It was just kind of a calling in a way. I felt like it was the right thing to do. I remember being in middle school, and we had a career day in 7th grade. And you get to check out all these careers, and these people are coming in from Wall Street, and these actors and these chefs and stuff. It's all these really cool different jobs. I just really wanted to be a teacher even then. And I took that week that they had the career fair thing. They had us take this test, this inventory. And it's funny, I was matched to be an engineer. And I was engineering? That sounds boring. And now in hindsight, it's it would have been pretty cool. And even when I graduated high school, a friend's mom had kind of convinced me to start with engineering. And her point was start with engineering, make some money. You could always do teaching later. And I started college. And after the first semester, I was I just really wanted to just do teaching. So I changed majors. I didn't change from physics. I still did physics, but I just changed majors to focus on teaching as well. Because there's a whole bunch of, it's basically a double major. There's a whole bunch of extra classes you got to take, psych classes and pedagogy classes and stuff. So yeah, Connecticut does pay a lot better than some other states. I've heard, I spoke to a friend. I went to go stay with my friends in Georgia, and we went out to dinner with their friend who had been teaching for 30 years. And I've been teaching for 10. And she was making 60% of what I make right now. And I'm what are you doing? Why are you even doing this anymore? I don't think that if Connecticut didn't have, a very transparent pay scale and a goal to get to that was pretty rewarding, I don't know if I would have done it. Because again, with being kind of risk averse and stuff, it's I want security. I really value that. And the starting pay for teachers is usually not great, but it ends up being pretty good. The last district I was in, the top step for my education level was 120. And where I am now, it's a little over 100, which I'm really okay with. I switched to be closer to home. I just couldn't handle the commute anymore. It just wasn't worth it to me. Yeah, it's pretty decent. It's not like, I know elsewhere in the country, it's like really bad, but Connecticut's not too bad.
Yeah, that's actually quite a bit higher than I would have been anticipated.
Yeah.
So what subject do you teach? Are you teaching physics? And what ages?
Good question. I've always taught high school, juniors and seniors. For a short period of time, I taught freshmen for a little bit there. And they're just a different animal for sure. I'm like the juniors and the seniors. That's when the apathy really sets in. And I kind of like it. I'm okay with it. The freshmen are really energetic. And I'm like, it's very cute. I just don't know if it's my jam. And I feel a little like guilty admitting that, but it's true. But I taught physics for about 10 years. And the freshman class that I taught was a general science class. I taught that for a couple years. And then when I switched districts, I switched to math. So I'm certified math, physics, tech ed, and general science. I now teach mainly geometry and algebra, and I teach a personal finance class as well, which is the most fun.
That's incredible. I think that I'm intimidated that you teach high schoolers because I think I'd get eaten alive, mostly because I don't know what to wear anymore. I'm very confused by today's fashion choices, and I don't understand how kids talk anymore or text or whatever you call it.
Don't even get me started on the language. My husband pointed out something that I hear often in my class. I'm like, oh, what's that mean? And he told me, I was like, no, they don't say that in front of me, do they? Like, oh my God, I had no idea. That's so bad. Yeah, I teach in a very different area now. They're pretty brazen. I don't know how long I'll last, to be honest. It's pretty, I think if I didn't have kids, it wouldn't be a problem. But like mothering the kids at school, which I didn't used to have to do so much. Now I'm in an area where like I do have to kind of mother them. And then coming home to mothering, I'm like, whew, getting it on both ends is tough. So I'm like trying to start this website, this like tutoring and like financial coaching thing so that I can eventually not do this anymore. I don't know how long it'll take. We'll see where it goes. But right now it's just kind of like a hobby.
I'm actually not surprised because you've mentioned a few times already throughout this interview that you have some things on the back burner, some things that you really want to do at a future point in time. And so putting yourself in a position to be able to make that spring when it makes sense sounds calculated and right up your alley.
Yeah, well, this one's kind of nice because it doesn't take any extra financial resources, and it really is just kind of like a hobby. I don't feel any pressure for like if it doesn't go anywhere, it's all good. I'm just doing something that I enjoy.
That's awesome. So you've gone on this incredible journey and got several passions, it sounds like, but have settled in on teaching. Where does Sarah go from here? Do you have a target net worth down the road? Is there something, a big goal out there that you're striving for?
Good question. Yeah. All good questions. No, I mean, even when I started to notice that we were creeping up towards 1 million, I didn't really feel like it would have felt. Part of that might be because we're in a ridiculously high cost area. And I told my mom over dinner a few months ago that our daycare was more than our mortgage. And she was like, oh, she's like, how do people do that? I'm like, right. That's why people aren't having as many kids, because like you can't. It's just crazy expensive. And geo arbitrage is not something we're interested in because we're just really attached to being close to our family and attached to the area. Dan's family's been in Connecticut for like ever, like forever. So they, fought in the Rev War. And actually my dad's side of the family, same deal, but in Massachusetts. So it's like, we're pretty attached to the area. And I think as far as the goal, it's kind of like, I don't know, wherever we get to, I think we're just kind of keep on keeping on, keep doing what we're doing, living below our means, being thoughtful, being careful. We are careful with what we invest in. Like I know during the last couple of years, we may have missed out on some of the tech boom stuff, but as we watched some of these stocks go crazy, we were like, we didn't really feel bad. We didn't really feel like we were missing out because we knew that a lot of these things that were being driven up just had no valuation to support them. And a whole bunch of companies that our friends were like, oh my God, it's going to go to 300 and it's at 100 now. It's like, now they're at $15, it's just not worth it. So I'm more into like utilities, which I know are kind of boring, but utilities and consumer, like B&G Foods. I like Detroit Midstream. I like just kind of Detroit Edison is good too. I don't have them, but I don't, or like some oil stocks. Like I had Pioneer before their deal went through, which was nice, and switched over to Devon Energy, and I'm just holding them. Yeah, I don't know. We just I'm not in a rush to get to a specific net worth. Just trying to do what we enjoy. Dan has actually finally also jumped on the bandwagon with me with the like trying to have some sort of a side hustle, having something on the back burner that we actually enjoy. He's, like I said before, he's in sales and he is very good at what he does. He's kind of special because he has like he can communicate with the engineering side as well as the sales side, which is good for him. Like not a lot of salespeople can really like connect with the engineering side. So he's, when I started up my website, I was like, Dan, we had talked about him doing like social media marketing for a while because he got his MBA in marketing. He was like, yeah, sure, I'll be on your website. He has got more people than I have. I'm on there for like helping people with financial coaching, like bare basics, like people who aren't sure how to like make a budget and feel intimidated by money. I want to like help. Like I'm not a CPA or anything. And if they ask complicated questions, to be like, no, you got to go talk to a CPA. But like people who need help, just basics, like what's the difference between a traditional or a Roth IRA? Like stuff like that. And like where to go to find their balances, to put them in one spot into a budget, and tutoring as well. Tutoring, math, like math and physics. And yeah, I put him on there and it was like, boom, he had like 3 clients in no time. And, and he loves it. And I'm like, awesome. So that's kind of hopefully that'll make us get to our next step a little bit faster, but not too fast. Cause he really likes his job. I'm kind of lukewarm on my job, but, I'm still going to keep at it for a while. And, we don't want to sacrifice too much of our time because again, our family we have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. So that's the most important thing right now, is just making sure they're growing in the right way.
That's awesome. Well, let's wrap up with some rapid fire questions. What's the most expensive pair of shoes that you've purchased?
Probably like $60. Wedding.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. I'm not really a big, again, like growing up in the area I grew up in, it's just like being around all the expensive stuff. It just I could see very clearly that it doesn't really bring happiness. I'm not really into the shoes and clothes thing.
Okay. What about the most expensive meal out?
That was probably this past week. I went to this awesome restaurant in North Naples, and I think the bill, actually, Dan didn't let me see the bill, but he said it was over 400. Oh, he's right. He's totally listening. No, it was not that much. It was $600. Oh, I was going to pay. And then I conveniently left my card in the car. I brought my phone. I was like, I'm so used to tap to pay now. And I just didn't think to bring my card. But yeah, there you go. $600. So that's the most expensive meal.
Wow.
It's pretty awesome though. There was a saxophone player right behind us the whole time. It was nice.
Nice. You're never going to forget it.
No.
Awesome. What about the most expensive experience or trip that you've been on?
I don't know. Dan usually does more of the vacation stuff. No, because that was just us too. I feel like I don't understand when people come on your show and they say their numbers for the most expensive excursion or like vacation they've had. I don't believe them. and there's hidden costs to being a teacher, and vacations is a huge one because our vacation times throughout the year, like I live in Connecticut. I live near the coast on Connecticut. So like I want to be here in the summertime. I don't want to go anywhere in the summertime. So when I travel is Christmas break or February break. And it's the most expensive times of the year.
Yep.
So like airfare alone will be triple whatever, I don't know, other people can get, I guess. So probably upwards of $6,000 going to probably Florida a couple years ago. We went to, or last year we went to Disney for a day, but we had a hotel for a few days and the airfare was expensive. So yeah, probably altogether it's probably about $6,000 for the four of us.
Okay. What's a key lesson you learned from childhood?
Security is the most important thing. Yeah. I remember something that stood out to me was like when I was a kid, I remember my mom was kind of like stressing about money. I'd asked her to go on a trip or something and she said no. And I was like, why? Because I was a kid and I was whying everything. And she said we didn't have the money for it. And it really stressed her out. It really bothered her. And I was like, well, is there anything I can do to help you guys with money? And she's like, if you did anything extra, you wouldn't eat. And that just really stuck with me that like, we were not in a great financial position and they ended up eventually losing their house and stuff. So it was a bummer. But
Wow.
I think my parents are both pretty proud that I'm one of four. We're all doing pretty good financially. So yeah.
Wow. What's the craziest thing you've ever done to earn money?
I actually wrote this one down. I thought about this one because you've been asking it. Okay. In college, I went on Craigslist to try and find jobs to make some money. And there was this posting from a Yale professor, because I went to school in New Haven where Yale is. And she lived like 10 minutes away. She wanted help like sorting through, how did she describe it? It was like cleaning up and just kind of like organizing. And I was like, okay, yeah, I can help with that. So I got there and she was like full on OCD. And she had all these dolls that like she was telling me stories about them. And like it ended up kind of being like she wanted to pay me to be her daughter's friend. And like I was not going back after. I think I went like 3 times. And by the third time I figured out what was happening. And I was like, nope, this is not going to happen anymore. Yeah, it was weird.
What was your first job?
My first job that I got paid for, because I would do free labor for my parents for sure. My first job I got paid for was working in a kitchen. That was awesome because I love cooking. I see it as an art form. And I learned a lot. Didn't get paid well at all, but I learned a lot. And the chef was really good. I learned good work skills of being told what to do.
Nice. Do you remember what you got paid?
I think it was like $7.15 an hour. And he definitely kept we pooled our tips, but then he would base it off of how many hours he worked. And he would work like 70 hours a week. And I would work like 6 hours a week. So he would give me like, after 2 weeks of working, he'd give me like $4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you live and you learn. That wouldn't happen these days, that's for sure.
No. Okay. What's the dumbest thing that you've ever blown money on or wasted money on?
Oh man, I don't know. You know what? I'm going to use this as an example because it's the one that sticks out right now. Right now, I have something that I need to return in my car. Our gasket on we have a wood burning fireplace insert, and our gasket was going bad. So I went to Lowe's and I got this kit. And it was probably like $10. And we had the glue at home already. So Dan found the glue and we used the glue and we repaired the fireplace insert thing. And it's still sitting in my car and it's been like 2 months and it just bugs me every time I see that. So I'm going to use that as an example because it's anything like that where I buy it and then I don't use it. I'm like I value my time so much that I'm like, I don't want to spend the time to go and return this. But then it bothers me. I'm like, oh my God, I just got to return this stupid thing. That's what I'm going to say is my thing.
Okay. What's the financial habit that has changed the most since you become a millionaire?
As we were approaching millionaire status, we had some things happen in our life that made me reevaluate happiness in general. And I'm a lot more okay with spending small amounts of money on like a daily basis that will make me happy, like buying better food that's more nutritious, or like if I just really want a coffee on my way home, I'm not going to feel so bad about buying it. Like basic stuff like that. I'm enjoying the ride instead of trying to focus on the end goal.
Y'all use a credit card?
Definitely. Yeah. Zero balance at the end of every month. Both of us. It's always been that way. I think I built up like $1,500 at one point, which was paid off the following month. So we just never pay interest. And we don't go crazy on points either. We're not like I've like looked into a little bit of credit card hacks and the points guy and whatever, but it just seems very time consuming, and I'm just a cashback girl. I think Dan, you are too. Yeah. Yeah. We're both just cashback all the way.
Do y'all run your household as separate, like separate finances?
We do. I'm a strong believer in that. I really believe that it is good for a relationship to have the separate finances. And I realize that like people have different opinions on this for sure. I just feel like it helps maintain equality and ownership. And there's I don't know. Yeah, that's how we do it. We've always, when we got married, we talked about having a shared account. We base our payments off of our income. So it's not like we used to split things, and then it got to a point where I couldn't keep up and it was really stressing me out. And we talked about that. I also had about $15,000 of student loan debt, and Dan graduated with none. So, he lived at home and paid it off really quick. I didn't have that option. So, we did it off of like our income percentage. I also don't put anything. One thing that is different is like, I don't put anything towards my retirement plans because Dan gets a killer match where he works. So, I'm okay with him getting the better match and having his Roth 401k grow, and ours and mine not, because I understand it's going to benefit both of us at the end. So it's not like we think of ourselves necessarily separately. It's how we do our finances.
Awesome. Any last words of advice for somebody who's just starting out on their journey?
Yeah, just take that first step. Like, the first step is intimidating. And if you take that first step, then you'll start to feel a little bit more powerful, and it'll just keep growing from there. I think when I first opened up my first Roth IRA account, I was talking to the guy on the other end of the line. I have USAA, and they're fantastic. And I was like, well, I think I can only put in like $50 a month. And he was like, good, your later self is going to thank you. That's enough. And I was like, oh, okay, it is enough. And it's only grown since then. But if I had never taken that first step, I wouldn't be where I am now. Awesome.
It's Sarah with a net worth of $1.12 million. Thanks for the show today.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
Thanks for listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast with Jace Mattinson. For more stories, investment opportunities, and information, check out our website, millionairesunveiled.com. See you next time when you'll hear from another everyday millionaire.